Harold Perrineau is from the mysterious sort of horror thriller drama on Epix. I'm at Noble Gold Derby. I wanted to ask you, Harold, what is the biggest question you have from?
This is going to be really interesting. The biggest question I have from is not about from at all. The biggest question I have is, are we going to get answers, or is this going to be like Lost again? It's more of a threat. It's not even actually a question, if I'm being honest. That's the biggest question. And the answer to the question is yes, you're going to get answers. Just everybody, hold on. It's 10 episodes. It's not 22. It's smaller storytelling. We're going to get answers. Not right now, but we're going to get answers.
Okay, that is good to hear. Do you how much, when you approach this role, this character, how many questions did you have answered already? How much do you know? And especially moving forward, as we look past season 1, do you know more than we know right now?
I actually don't know much more than you do. I know a little bit more, and only because I wanted to understand a little bit about where it was going, about what I was kind of getting myself into, and how to play, some of the earlier parts of the character. For instance, Boyd, my character, Sheriff Boyd Stevens, you can tell he's kind of a broken guy in the beginning, but you don't know why, and I needed to know why. So I'm not playing he's broken because he lost his job. I'm playing he's broken because, the real reason that he's broken. And so that stuff I kind of needed to know. And then in planning on how long the show might go and stuff like that, I asked a few questions. But that being said, I didn't really ask more than that. I kind of asked what I needed to know. And I was looking to see if Harold, the audience member, was going to feel excited or surprised by the story, because then that's sort of my barometer to see if I thought audiences might feel the same way. And so I didn't ask a ton of questions. I wanted it to unfold and see what I felt about it. And I was really, each time, more excited about the next episode, about the next script, about what was going on. And so this first season is the same thing. We answered some questions. We answered some really significant questions, but it's going to leave you with quite a few more questions for the next season. Fingers crossed.
So it does seem like most of sort of what you needed to know as an actor was questions about the past and your character in the past. In terms of the town and sort of the why you're there and how to get out and all that sort of stuff, it seems like, as an actor, is it more helpful not to know all that stuff so that your character can immerse, so you're not second guessing the character?
For me, yeah, it's better to not know, because then I can really live in the experience of how do I figure this out? I can actually live in the experience of what is actually going on here. Who are those people? Why do they turn into monsters? What's going on? Why can't we get out of this town? Can we walk out of this town? Can we drive? We clearly can't drive out of the town. Is there a path? It lets me actually do it's easier to do the work if I'm actually asking the questions. You know what I mean? So as an actor, I actually get to really live in it. If I knew all the answers, then I'd have to pretend I didn't and go oh, if I didn't know, what would I be doing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so and this is actually, it's actually helpful for me to not have all the answers. And so yeah, I do have all the questions about where are these people from? How did they get here? Why did they change into monsters? How did they get into our heads? Are they in Sarah's head? Is there a road out of here? What's beyond? I have all the same questions as everybody I've been seeing online has.
You said you like predicting yourself and trying to work it out yourself. What's your best theory, Harold?
My best theory is that you can't directly walk it out of here. That it's being controlled from somewhere, and you can walk into that. I just don't know what that is. But my theory is that there is something controlling this for a reason, and that you can walk into whatever that is, but you can't necessarily walk out of the nightmare that this town is. That's my best guess. It's not great.
Yeah.
Other people have really good guesses that are, about time and quantum physics and stuff that, yeah, I just can't. I don't know.
What's your what do you think the most important thing is for the people in the town to figure out?
Surviving. And when I say that, it's not just surviving, but how you survive. Like there's such a divide between the town and the colony house. And the colony house really believes, hey, we got to live for the moment. We'll be in here at night, but what we're doing is going to be different than what you guys are doing. And in the town, we are, hunkered down with our families if we have them, making it through the night, keeping everybody safe, getting a good night's sleep, getting up the next day, starting all over again, and finding a sense of normalcy so we can keep our humanity. It is, I think, the most important thing is how to survive, and then the question is not only how to survive, but what do you want to do as you're surviving? What's important to you for your life? So I think those are the big questions.
So if you were writing on a wall, your questions would be, how do we survive?
Right. Right.
What do you think you would do, Harold, if you're in this situation? If you were stuck in this town you couldn't get out of, monsters are coming out at night, what do you think you would do? What role would you play in the town?
Well, I guess I'd have to say I already know what I would do, because for a year I was stuck in my house.
Yeah.
And there was a virus that I couldn't figure out, like it was like a monster somewhere in your closet. And what did I do? I hunkered in, I protected my family, they protected me. We got closer, we had a good time. We figured out how to live. That's exactly what I would do. Now, Boyd Stevens has more skills than I have. I'm an actor, he's a military guy. Like he just has more like practical skills. And so those things I'd like to develop. Maybe the next time we're stuck in our houses, I'll learn how to build a canopy bed or something like that, something useful or something. I don't know. So we'll see.
What do you think Boyd's biggest character flaw is?
I think his character is, I think it's his pain. I think his pain makes him really reactive. It makes his temper really hair trigger. And I think that's the biggest thing that the town will have to deal with. Like he's any wounded animal is a little scary if you push them into the wrong corner. And I think that's where Boyd is scariest for the people in the town. I don't know about the monsters because I don't know what their vulnerabilities are. But for the people in the town, the trickiest thing with Boyd is like don't mess up the rules, because he doesn't have a lot of patience for it. He has zero patience for it. So that's his biggest flaw, I would say. I wouldn't be that way. I'd have a little more understanding.
And what's your what's for you as an actor been the biggest sort of challenge in you approaching this role, approaching the series?
The thing that I found the most challenging, I've said it a few times, is the amount of sadness that Boyd lives with. It's hard to sort of like do it and then walk away from it, and then do it and walk away from it. So you kind of have to live with it. And that's a little tricky. I found myself listening to sad music and like, writing sad things in my journal, but I had to live in that space in order to, I think, just the actor that I am. Some people are different than me, but in order to be as honest about it as I could, that hair trigger response is tricky to just pull up. But like if you walk around with it, it's there. You just kind of have to manage it and control it. And then you have times, once they say action, you can just like boom, just let it all go. It's like holding something that can just containing it. like this vibrating thing all the time, and you have moments to let it go and then you contain it. Now for me, I just have to hold that. I can't let it go. I just have to keep on. So that's the hardest thing for me.
Do you have when trying to get into Boyd's head and listen to some sad music, do you have a go-to sad song?
Not a go-to one. I remember discovering, and I'd known the song before, but I remember like in my sadness walking down the street going to the supermarket, and Drops of Jupiter played on my earphone. Do you know Drops of Jupiter?
Oh yeah.
And you realize that he wrote that for his mom, and I'd lost my mom, and suddenly it was in my car. It was playing all the time. I came home and played it for my kids. Like it was like a running kind of like this kind of constant, like what's she doing out there in the atmosphere, and that was really helpful for Boyd. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite moment from season 1?
Oh man, there are. I don't have a favorite moment. There are lots of things that I thought were really good. I thought that one of those tricky moments is when Boyd has to go and talk to his wife's grave. I thought that was really. I don't know if you've seen the whole thing. You know how she got there. So going there but talking to that part that still loves her so much. I thought it was hard to do, and I was really proud of some of the work that we all did to create that moment. I think it's really touching and heartfelt and funny and interesting. That's the closest I can say to a favorite moment. There's a lot of great moments and a lot of fun stuff that we got to do. You know, Sean Majumder is a great actor to work with, and you know, we have so many great moments that are with him. And it's hard to pick one.
Yeah. What was one of the more like? What was one of the sort of funnest things you got to do when filming this show?
Is this a spoiler?
You can
one?
spoil.
People know about it.
But the episodes are out, so you can.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I think when in episode 8, when Boyd finds the goat out in the woods, I just had so much fun with Sean Majumder because he kept improvising things. Like I was like, I found a goat, and then he would say something hilarious, and then we go, "Cut, Harold, you can't laugh here, man." I was like, "Which?" He's so funny. Okay, let's go again. Let's do it again. So that was one of my favorite days on the show. And you know, it's a simple scene, but we did it for quite a while. But it was a really fun day. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's great.
Yeah.
What you've done a lot you've worked in television a lot for many years. Yep. What is new or different about this particular role and performance and series for you?
Well, you know, the big difference is that he's the lead of this show, and that's something that, you know, I've been, you know, part of the cast and somebody else leading, sort of, you know, leading us down the road. And so the big difference for me has been that, like just being that person and having people look at me like that person. And so that's been really interesting and a good skill to learn and hose. I've had many opinions about different leads of some of the shows I've been on, and being that person was really interesting for me. And then sort of trying to lead the charge throughout the show and making sure that I constantly remember that, because that character really has to push the narrative quite a bit all the time. And so it's definitely different than pushing a singular storyline. Pushing the entire group storyline forward was it's really interesting thing it's a really new and interesting thing for me to do.
Yeah. And what have you learned from having that sort of leadership role on the cast list and stuff?
The thing I guess I've learned is that it's not as hard as some folks seem to make it out to be. That some folks make it out to be like a real burden. It's actually not a burden. It's quite an honor, and it's a real joy. You know, some folks look at you and they want to know some things or answers to things, and For me, it's my honor to be asked to do it. And so like it's a joy, it's a privilege. And I treat it like that. And I treat my coworkers like that. And I'm a real collaborator. I love doing theater for that reason. I love doing television shows. You really get to collaborate. It's not just my work, but it's the work of thousands of people that really make the whole thing work. And I really dig that. I really like community. And so for me, it winds up being a joy. Sometimes it's a lot of work, but a lot of work never stopped the show. It just means, it's a lot of work, and that's it.
That's like interesting that you sort of like with television too, you've got episodes and episodes and maybe seasons upon seasons to build on that as a community and to be evolving and learning and gelling and all that sort of stuff.
Right. And you have people who will come and go and different personalities, and we lose some people, we gain other people. Like it's a real living thing. It's a real living, breathing community. Yeah, that's it. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, it's really cool. Well, like we're an awards website at Gold Derby, and you were a big part of Lost, that won the Emmy for Best Drama Series in its first season. Another show with, as you alluded to at the beginning of the chat, involved mysteries and questions, but also like another ensemble drama. You also won a SAG award as part of the ensemble for that show too. What did you learn from your experience on Lost that you've carried with you through to today?
One of the things I think that I think also the directors got, was the storytelling aspect of the people, and that's really where the drama lies. It's not so much about the big scares; those things are really important, or the big questions. But nobody's staying there if they're not involved in the lives of the people and telling those stories. And how do we get to the real truth of like human behavior or human expression, and enough to get people to really define which character they resonate with. And I think Jack Bender and Jeff Pinker are really great at crafting that thing. I think for me, that became a really central part of creating the character of Boyd. It's not just playing this archetypal gruffy old sheriff, but it's like, who's Boyd and what makes him tick? And I think that was the thing I learned really a lot in Lost. It's like, who are these people? At first it felt like archetypes, but we learned really quickly that what people gravitated to, what they had questions about, not only was the mythology, but these people within the mythology. And I think for however you felt about the end of it, the writers were right about one thing. It was about the journey. It was always about the journey with the people. It could end any way you wanted it, but it was 6 years of hanging out with people you liked, didn't like, rooted for, hoped they got crushed by the smoke monster, whatever you wanted. But you were there for 6 years and you had an experience and you had a feeling, and that's really and that's the juice. That's where it really swings.
Yeah, and that first season was masterful in delving into those characters. Do you have a particular? Is there a moment from that experience that just stays with you all these years later?
Again, it's one of those things. There's so many people in the cast, and the show is so big and expansive. But there were many times that it would come up. I'm going to say there are two things. So there are many times that we'd be just sitting out on the beach, going like, "Can you believe that we're doing this?" We'd have those moments. Those are really, really crazy, and I really love that. And for me, me personally, is when they told me a day or two before what was going to happen to Ana Lucia and Libby. And I went, "What?" And they're like, yeah, you're gonna shoot him. And I was like, me? It was really, really interesting to do that and then show up that day. And nobody on our crew knew what we were doing. Do you know what I mean? And it was interesting to watch all those people go, hey, what's happening? I mean, the people who are right, there every day. Those things kind of stick out in my head as like really like curious, like fun work things that they're once in a lifetime kind of things. Being on the beach and having those moments that are big and seminal in the pantheon like of television.
Well, Harold, from building rafts on Lost to finding lighthouses in the woods from thank you so much for chatting with us today. All the best of luck with the upcoming Emmy Awards for From and your performance there. And thanks for making the time. People watching this interview can go to goldderby.com to watch other interviews and make your own Emmy Award predictions.
All right.
Thanks, Harold.